Okay, now that we have everything hooked up, we need to get DHCP running on this router so that this phone can pick up an IP address. So we'll open the router and we'll hit enter. We'll hit Control C to exit out of that interface, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Conf T to get to global config mode. And what I'm going to do is I'll say IP DHCP pool, right? And I'll make the pool called voice. So this will be my voice or my VoIP pool. All right, IP DHCP pool VoIP. All right, so I have the name for it right there. And now the network 192.168.150.0 255.255.255.0. Okay, and then default router 192.168.150.1. That'll be the router gateway that we're going to hand out, right? The network's going to be 150. Okay. All right, that looks good. There's our router. Okay, and now we'll put in a question mark now, raw DHCP options. Notice this one right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say option and then a number DHCP option code, and this is a special code for the VoIP, the voice over IP configuration. So we'll say 150 space IP 192.168.150.1, which of course is the IP address of the router. Okay, so that looks good. All right, we'll exit out of there. Okay, now we need to configure conf t, the telephony service on the router. So what we'll do is we'll put a question mark here, and you can see there it is, telephony service, right, in global config mode. So we'll say TELE tab telephony service. We'll hit enter, and notice we're in telephony config mode now. So that's pretty cool. And we're going to configure the maximum number of numbers right now. So we'll say max tab max question mark max DN, max dialing numbers, max ePhones. So max DN space question mark maximum directory numbers supported. Okay, so we'll say 10, right? So there's going to be 10 numbers supported, right? Now we'll say max ePhones, right? Question mark maximum phones to support. We'll say 10. All right, that was pretty easy. The IP source dash address 192.168.150.1 port 2000. All right, IP source address, the router's port on the correct VLAN, right? VLAN 150, port 2000. Okay. And then we'll say auto question mark define dialing number range for auto assignment, right? Okay, so we'll say auto assign and then a question mark start DN tag, starting dialing number tag. So we'll say 4 question mark 2 question mark, let's say 429. All right. Actually, since we have 10 phones, I'm not exactly sure about what I'm doing here, but what I'll say is, how about this? Auto assign 1 to 9. Okay, that looks good. Okay, now that we've configured the router, we're all done with the router, but I created on the switch this access port for VLAN 150 for this telephone, but I actually need to change it from just an access port to a voice port on this switch. So I misconfigured port FA020 on the switch, and I need to redo that. So what I'll do is I'll go into the switch, and I've got the switch right here, and I'll do a conf t, right? And I'm going to say interface FA0/20, right? And what we did before is we said switch port mode access, and that's good, right? That's fine. We did that, right? Switch port mode access, no problem. But then afterwards, we did switch port access, and then we said VLAN 150. But we can look in here and we could say, all right, and I'm going to no that out. So no switch port. I'll reverse that. No switch port access VLAN 150. And then what I'll do is I'll say instead what I want to do is switch port, and you'll see if I do a space and a question mark, there is a voice option along with the trunk and the native and the access. There's a voice option for voice appliance attributes. So what we'll do is we'll say voice question mark VLAN 150. So that will make it specifically a voice port, switch port access, voice VLAN 150. And that's going to have different attributes that we're going to need. Then let's set up a second one. So what we'll do is we'll say interface FA0/21, right? And then I'll up arrow to switch port mode access, and then switch port voice VLAN 150. So now we've made port 21 switch port mode access, switch port voice VLAN 150. So now we have a second port for voice. So then what we can do is we'll click on End Devices, IP phone, drag out a second phone, cord it up with a straight through cable from switch to port 21, right? Notice we've got red lights here. We have to click on the voice over IP phone and power it up just like that. All right. Perfect. Now if we close that out, you'll see that it's starting to go from blocking to forwarding, right? Just going to take a second here. So now if we look at the phone here, we can see that configuring CM list, right? Call manager list. Anyway, the phone is here, but what we need for it is we need to give it a number, right? We need to give this phone a number. And to do that, we're going to have to go back to the router and do it through the router. So we weren't quite done with the router. So we go back to the router, and we're going to go into global config mode, and we'll say question mark define Ethernet phone, ePhone, right? ePhone directory numbers, right? So that's what we're going to use. So we'll say ePhone dash directory number space question mark, and then the tag. So we'll say 1, right? And now we need to give it a phone number. So we'll say number 62001. All right? And we'll hit enter, right? And then we'll say, notice the phone just registered, right? Okay. Then what we'll do is we'll say ePhone directory number 2, right? And then we'll say number 62002. And we'll do that. And hopefully that will give the number to the second phone. You see here an IP address just got handed out. So now if we look at these phones, we'll go back to the phones. You can see here our first phone has a number 62001, right? Picked up that number, right? Also, it picked up an IP address. If we hover over it, maybe we can see it. This has picked up an IP address. He's located 150.2, right? It's got the gateway. It's got the line number. You can see all this information. And then the second phone, we hover over that one, and it's picked up an IP address, and it's got a different phone number. If we click on this one, right, we can see its phone number right here. And so now what we can do is we can dial, let's try this out here, 62001, and then pick up the phone, and it's ringing out, right? We'll go to the other phone, and you can see that it's got a phone call from 62002. We can pick it up, and we're connected. It's pretty cool. Okay, let's hang it up. All right, we've hung up the phone, and let's dial the other number. So we'll say 62002, right? And pick up the phone. It's ringing out. Pick up the other phone, and you can see that it's got a phone call from 62001. All right, that's it.